الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. Brothers and sisters, dua sahat. Let's recite five times. أما يجيب. May Allah give shifa inshallah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء. 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. Let's recite dua Imam Zamana all together. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا تمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Inshallah we'll do the ziyarat after Matam. If you can please help us set up the main hall for the program. Wa Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salawat Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Brothers and sisters, inshallah, we'll begin the program with recitation of Quran by Brother Michael Hussain. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat.
سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لتبلون في أموالكم وأنفسكم ولتسمعن من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم ومن الذين أشركوا أذى كثيرا وإن تصبروا وتتقوا فإن ذلك من عزم الأمور. وإذ أخذ الله ميثاق الذين أوتوا الكتاب لتبيننه للناس ولا تكتمونه فنبذوه وراء ظهورهم واشتروا به ثمنا قليلا فبئس ما يشترون. لا تحسبن الذين يفرحون بما أتوا ويحبون أن يحمدوا بما لم يفعلوا فلا تحسبنهم بمفازة من العذاب ولهم عذاب أليم. ولله ملك السماوات والأرض والله على كل شيء قدير. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. فاستجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى بعضكم من بعض. فالذين هاجروا وأخرجوا من ديارهم وأوذوا في سبيلي وقاتلوا وقتلوا لأكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم ولأدخلنهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار ثوابا من عند الله والله عنده حسن الثواب. لا يغرنك تقلب الذين كفروا في البلاد متاع قليل ثم مأواهم جهنم وبئس المهاد. لكن الذين اتقوا ربهم لهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها نزلا من عند الله وما عند الله خير للأبرار. وإن من أهل الكتاب لمن يؤمن بالله وما أنزل إليكم وما أنزل إليهم خاشعين لله لا يشترون بآيات الله ثمنا قليلا أولئك لهم أجرهم عند ربهم إن الله سريع الحساب. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
MashaAllah. Thank you, Brother Michael Hassan, for reciting Surah Imran, Al Imran, verses 186 through 200. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. At this time, inshallah, I'd like to invite a young lady for recitation of poetry, Sister Rabab Zaidi. Please encourage her with a loud salawat.
This poem is called Zahra Awaited Us. At the beginning of creation, before the universe converged, God created a single light from which creation would emerge. From this light emerged another until there were 14, for the guidance of creation to seek the merciful unseen. And among these sacred lights, there was the light of Fatima, the most beautiful reflection of the beauty of Allah. The greatest of all women on both earth and paradise, the mother of her father and the coolness of his eyes. Her life within this world was deeply bittersweet and brief, every chapter of her story full of suffering and grief. For among her many sorrows was the pain of Ashura and the knowledge of the dhulm that would unfold in Karbala. When her beloved father told her of what would happen to Hussain, there are no words in any language to articulate her pain. Her son would die alone on the plains of Karbala, without the Prophet, without Ali, without Hassan and Fatima. His enemies would wound him throughout the day of Ashura. He would be a flood with pain and thirst before returning to Allah. How could any mother bear this? How could her heart endure the pain of holding her young child while knowing he'd be slain? But as the heart of Zahra broke, there emerged a ray of light, like the whispering of dawn amid the darknesses of night, that brought solace to her grief in that hour of desolation and filled her aching heart with relief and consolation. Rasulullah informed her that a group of Shia would arise, who would commemorate Hussain and shed tears at his demise. Every corner of the earth would be full of his azah, for every atom in creation would remember Karbala. So as we gather here today, we embody that dua that pleased the Prophet's heart and brought comfort to Zahra. We must remember as we gather to engage in azah and discuss that existence awaited Zahra, but Zahra awaited us. With the radiance of her being, she held the universe in thrall, and every atom of existence was at her beck and call. Yet in her time of deepest sorrow, her greatest source of peace was the promise that her Shia would hold these gatherings and grieve. So you and I can purchase paradise every time we mourn Hussain, for our tears are the healing waters that eased his mother's pain. And the one who pleases Fatima has pleased Rasulullah, and the universe rejoices when you please the beloved of Allah. For a single cup of chai drunk with love for Abu Abdullah makes one worthy of a palace in the currency of Allah, because these tears that flow from us and this love within our souls brings us closer to reunion with our overarching goal, to actualize Tawheed in every moment of our lives. Within this subtle truth lies the key to paradise. Salawat.
I'd like to invite Brother Hassan Nayani for salam. Bhar Muhammad wa alayhi Muhammad salawat.
खुशनूद इमाम ज़माना बुलंदर सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद। है अजब शाम के जिंदान में कोहराम बपा है अजब शाम के जिंदान में कोहराम बपा बैन से बाली सकीना के लरजती है फिजा सर्द है सारा बदन ज़र्द है गम से चेहरा आह करती है तो हिल जाता है जिंदां सारा ख्वाब से चौंक के उठ बैठी है रोती रोती अपने सीने से लगाए हुए बैठी है फूफी یہاں بیٹھے تھے پھوپھی اماں وہ میرے پاس یہاں بیٹھے تھے مجھ سے کہتے تھے میرا دل نہیں لگتا بیٹی آجا اب آجا میری گود میں آجا بیٹی کب سے بے چین ہوں صورت تو دکھا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو بند آنکھیں ہوئی جاتی ہے میری دیکھ ذرا لوریاں دیتی ہے مجھ کو کوئی مانوس صدا نیند آتی ہے پھوپھی جان سلا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو مانگیے اب نہ دعائیں میرے جینے کے لیے دیکھیے آ گئے بابا مجھے لینے کے لیے قبلہ رو کر کے پھوپھی جان لٹا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا کو ملا دو مجھ کو شکر اللہ کا مشکل ہوئی آسان میری کٹ گئے قید کے دن آ گئی رخصت کی گھڑی اب سفر خیر سے گزرے یہ دعا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو پھوپھی اماں میرے بابا سے ملا دو مجھ کو اور محمد وال محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Respected Shaykh Amin, elders, brothers and sisters in the community, Assalamu alaikum. As our mourning comes to an end, we will continue with Labbaik Ya Hussain, Labbaik Ya Hussain in our hearts. May Imam Zamana accept our smallest of contributions and heartiest commemoration of the occasion. Our programs and events are only possible due to the support of sustaining members and program sponsors. May Allah accept your contributions. For details on how to become a CFK sustaining member or a program sponsor, please contact our membership director, Brother Asif Patel. Join the CFK WhatsApp group or visit ckdfw.org. Let us all recite a Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas for the marhumin of tonight's sponsors. Dr. Sayyid Kazim Musavi, son of Sayyid Hussain Musavi, Brother Sajid and Sister Azra Kazmi, and for the marhum who don't have anyone to pray for them, and all of our marhumin and the marhumin of the Ummah, Brother Wajad Siddiqui and family, Brother Mamdani and family, and Kanani family. Program reminder, tomorrow, the day of Arbaeen, we will have Ziyarat Arbaeen with English commentary by Shaykh Amin Rastani, starting at 7:15 p.m., followed by namaz at 7:35 and the remainder of the program. We are still observing COVID protocols. All programs will be restricted to vaccinated individuals, ages 12 and up only. We are thankful for everyone's continued understanding and adherence to the protocol. A few additional reminders: relive the tragedy of Karbala. CFK is hosting a virtual reality Karbala tour here until Tuesday, courtesy of VR Karbala, open to vaccinated mu'mineen ages 12 and up. For sign-up details, please visit our website or WhatsApp group. Our youngest Azadars, the Scout Troops 1499, has created a model of Karbala on display here. After the program concludes, inshallah, we'll make arrangements so the men can also see this setup. And CFK is accepting donations for the aid of Afghan refugees, brothers and sisters. The contributions collected here are scheduled to be forwarded to Comfort Aid International and DFW Refugee Outreach Services after Arbaeen. For details on how to make this donation, please visit our WhatsApp group. Now it's my honor to invite Shaykh Amin to the member. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. These days, for some reason, I'm feeling a lot of Iranian poetry. So I want to start tonight's lecture on this night of Arbaeen with this line that says, In Hussain kist ke alam hame divane oost. In che sham'i ist ke janha hame parvane oost. Imam Hussain alayhi salam has conquered all hearts. After all these years that we are here, sitting in his majlis, after all these years, 1400 years, on an Arbaeen night like this, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Hussain Keys, who is this Hussain? This poetry is saying here that who is this Hussain that the whole world, the whole universe is crazy over, دیوانه اوست. What a candle this is, this Hussain. Have you noticed when you light a candle, when there's a light on at night, what happens? All the moths and butterflies come around that candle. They might even burn themselves in that candle, but they still will circumambulate around that candle. So it says that, what kind of candle is this? Never seen something like this before. Yeah? Kijanha, the souls, are all the moths and butterflies of this candle. Yes? This fire that is within us, really, that's the best way to describe it. This is a fire in us, that love that we have for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Inshallah, Allah increases that. I want to speak about a little bit, just give a few examples of how great Imam Hussain is, how much they love him, everybody. And then move into the secrets why. And it's not a secret, these aren't really secrets, but some of the reasons why Imam Hussain is so eternal. The memory and name of Imam Hussain is so eternal and cannot be defeated, inshallah. Few stories that I want to share with you. The first one of the maraja of the past, Abdul Hadi al-Shirazi, just to show how great Imam Hussain is. It says, now this is not something that I would necessarily say that brothers and sisters should do. He has reached a level of ma'rifah and understanding and love of Imam Hussain that he does this, but we don't have hadith for this. It's not mustahab in and of itself. I'm not going to say don't do it, I'm not going to say to do it necessarily, but it says that this is what he would do before his every salat. It says that after his adhan and his iqamah, he'd send a salam to Imam Hussain alayhi salam before beginning his salat. Once again, don't think that if I do this from now on, my salat's going to be better, I'm going to be able to pay attention better. Not necessarily. To fix the salat takes a lot of work, okay? This person though has reached the level of ma'rifah and he's saying salam to Imam Hussain before he starts his salat. Why, they asked him. And he says, because this salat that I have is because of Imam Hussain. Yes? So it's not just the memory of Imam Hussain that has lasted till today. Salat has lasted because of him. Another story. Someone was reciting poetry in the presence of one of the maraji again. And he's reciting, he says, Ey khak Karbala to muhr namaz man. In muhra be mulk Sulaiman nami daham. Which means that, oh the one who, so there, he's reciting this in front of that marja taqlid. Oh the one whose turba, the dust of his grave, is the muhr and the sajdaga that I use in my namaz. Muhr namaz man. I am not willing to change and exchange this turba, this sajdaga, with the mulk of Sulaiman, with the kingdom of Sulaiman. Now they say that this marja was listening to this and he's weeping as he is hearing this. And then later on he tells the poet, he says, change it to this. Change this line, although it's a beautiful line, but change it to this. Instead of saying, Ey khak Karbala to muhr namaz man, change it to Ey khak Karbala to asl namaz man. That the turba and your grave, O Aba Abdullah, is my salat itself, is the origin of my salat itself. This is what Imam Hussain did. Yes? It's not just about, oh, he did what he did so that we get shafa'ah on the day of judgment and like we get more thawab because we use turba. No. Asl namaz man, he says here, he says to the poet to say. And so this is why Islam is not just for the Shia, Imam Hussain is not for the Shia only, it is for all of Ahlul Islam. If you know it, you know it. If you don't know, it's fine, but the reality is something else. If anyone is praying today, it's because Imam Hussain kept Salat alive. And as a matter of fact, I want to go a step further. You've all heard this as well, that not only that, he belongs to all of humanity, they say. Yes? Why do I say this? I want to share with you a little story about a person by the name of Antoine Bara, his name is, or Antoine Bara. A Syrian Christian, Arab. He has a book by the name of Al-Husaynu fil Fikr al-Masihi. Hussain in Christian thought. So there's like 4 or 5 chapters, 5, 6 chapters in that book, which is interesting because you look at it, you're like, wow, looks like a Muslim wrote this, but the guy is Christian. I found him on YouTube. He's still alive. Now this guy, by the way, he's still Christian, but he has gone to Karbala, they said 7 times, and 1 time he's on the Arbaeen walk. So I haven't done that much. This guy's done this much. He sees something in Imam Hussain which is universal. And so he says in his book, the first chapter, Thawratul Hussain liman. It's like, don't limit, hey Muslims, don't limit Imam Hussain to yourselves. There's a lot more to Imam Hussain than just Islam. Now for us, what matters, of course, is the Islamic aspect. But look, when there is truth in something, when there is sincerity in something, things that we're going to talk about tonight, then people will connect. Anyone who has a little bit of fitrah in them will find compatibility and will connect to Imam Hussain. Other chapters, for example, Fida'ul Hussain fil Fikr al-Masihi, the sacrifice of Hussain in Christian thought, for example. Mu'jizat al-Shahada, the miracles of martyrdom. Al-Asbab al-Ba'ida wal-Qariba lil-Thawrat al-Husayniyah, the close and far away causes, those things that cause directly and indirectly, the martyrdom of Imam Hussain and the revolution of Imam Hussain, and so on. So he says, don't limit it to yourselves. So yes, we started out with Shia, and we ended up with Islam, but then we ended up eventually with all of humanity. Now these are just little things that I'm mentioning here and there. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we can't limit him to ourselves. Another person by the name of Sayyid Idris al-Husayni. So sounds like a proper Shia name, but he says, I was Sunni before. Now, once again, I don't want to make things about Shia Sunni, by the way. These are just little bits of proof and evidence for what I'm trying to claim here about Imam Hussain being so great. Or else you might find some of the Ahlul Sunnah who might revere Imam Hussain as much and if not more than some of the Shia out there. They might look at things a little differently, but Imam Hussain is universal, as I said. Anyway, he has a book that I mentioned last night, لَقَدْ شَيَّعَنِي الْحُسَيْنِ. Al-Hussain made me Shia. Why? In his introduction he explains. He says, I had an answer to everything. As a Sunni, I had an answer for everything. If you came up to me about this story, that story in history, I had answers to everything. But there's one thing I just did not have an answer to. How is this possible? How is Ashura possible? How can that take place? And so, as I've said before, like dominoes, you push one of them down, the rest fall. Imam Hussain is that one who pushes the dominoes. So now he has a book by the name of لَقَدْ شَيَّعَنِي الْحُسَيْنِ. Just a hadith about the greatness of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and then I want to move into the reasons that we can count for the everlastingness of this name, of this memory, of this story. The hadith goes like this, it's also famous. It says that Imam Hussain, he's the one who's mentioning this. He says, I was a child. I entered upon Rasulullah salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. And so there's this big companion with the Holy Prophet, Ubay bin Ka'b. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says to him, to Imam Hussain, Marhaban bika ya Aba Abdullah. Welcome, O Aba Abdullah. Now he's just a kid, by the way. Ya Zayna samawati wal ard. O zinat of the skies and the earth. So now Ubay bin Ka'b, zinat, what does zinat mean? The adornment, the decoration, the beauty of something. Ubay bin Ka'b is sitting next to Rasulullah. He says, Rasulullah, but is there any zinat of the heavens and the earth other than you? What does the Holy Prophet reply? فَقَالَ لَهُ يَا Ubay, by Allah, إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنَ ibn عَلِيٍّ فِي السَّمَاءِ أَكْبَرْ مِنْهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. That Imam Hussain alayhi salam in the skies and in the heavens is higher than what he is here on this earth that we're on. فَإِنَّهُ مَكْتُوبٌ عَنْ يَمِينِ الْعَرْشِ. It has been written on the right side of the throne of Allah. Now this might be figurative, but it just shows how great Imam Hussain is. What's written on the side of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? مِصْبَاحُ هُدًى وَسَفِينَةُ نَجَاتٍ. That on the throne of Allah it says, on the throne of Allah it is engraved that Hussain is the light of guidance, the beacon of guidance, and the ark of salvation. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So this is how great Imam Hussain is. Just a little touch, you know. There's a lot more to talk about, of course. But the question is, I, as a follower of Abu Abdullah, inshallah, I want to do things that are everlasting. I want to do things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what are those secret ingredients for me, what I do, as a Shia today, as a follower of Imam Hussain today, as a lover of Imam Hussain today, as an azadar of Imam Hussain today? What do I do? If I'm doing something that's good, if I'm doing something for Allah, I notice that some people do something, it lasts very long. Others, it doesn't that last too long. Now, of course, there might be other reasons as well for some things to die out every now and then. Sometimes it's for the best, actually, so that something better comes out of it. Okay? Can't always cling on to things just because they've been happening like that for the past maybe 50, 100 years. Say, this is how it always has to be. No, sometimes something better will come out of it. More refined will come out of it. But why is it that lots of times we see that one person does something, it lasts, another one does it doesn't last? There's a few things that I want to mention here when you find with the movement of Imam Hussain, that inshallah we can get a little bit of that and sprinkle it on what we do in our lives. And if Allah wants and wishes, what we have done lasts. And if it lasts, we get more sawab for what we've done. Even if we leave this dunya, inshallah, you know? I'll give you an example, like Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi. Yes? Do we know who he is? Do we know who he is? Shaykh Abbas Qummi. Do we know Mafatihul Janan is? Yeah, everyone's nodding, yeah? But if I say, do we know who Shaykh al-Tusi is? Do we know what Misbahul Mutahajjid is? Do I know what Tahdhib al-Ahkam is? No one knows. Although Shaykh al-Tusi is maybe one of the founding fathers, in a way, of Shi'ism today. No one knows him. But everyone's heard of Shaykh Abbas Qummi. What's going on here? Now, of course, he's in the past 100 years, Shaykh Abbas Qummi. But what I'm trying to highlight here is this, okay? And this is not to discredit Shaykh al-Tusi. But look, we all know Shaykh Abbas al-Qummi. Why? Because of his famous book of Mafatih. You will have a Quran in every Shia household, and you will have a Mafatih, right? He says, when I wrote this book, I was like, man, this is one of those things that's not going to catch on at all. Like, it's never going to work. I can tell this right from the get-go. You know, you hate it when you do something big and then you're like looking at it like, this ain't going to work, I know it. So Shaykh Abbas Qummi is like, this ain't going to work. And he had written other books, and he said, these were the ones I was sure were going to make it. Who's heard of his other works? I don't know about you guys. I always thought he only had one book. But he has other books too, no one's heard of. Yeah? But everyone's heard of Mafatih, but he didn't even think this was going to make it. And so you look, you see traces of ikhlas in there, things that he's done. I just remembered now, actually, that I remember reading that he had said that he had put off the printing of Mafatih for a year. Some of you might have heard this from me before. He put it off for a year. Think about it. You've written something up. It's like 900 pages, for God's sake, you know? You've done all that work. It's ready for print. And then you say, no, let's wait a year. Who knows? You might die in a year. Who knows? It might get lost. The manuscript that you've written up is going to get lost. I don't know. Like 1 year, I have to wait. We have to wait. Okay, fine. If that's what your wish is. Why though? Tell us why you want to wait. You know what his answer was? Subhanallah. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say this up here because, you know, we preach all the time. How much do we live up to what we preach? But look at what he says. He says this is a book of dua for throughout the year. Observances throughout the year. Correct? I don't want to be an alim that doesn't act upon what he teaches and preaches. If I'm telling people that, hey, here's 900 pages, because this is how thick the book is, by the way. Here's 900 pages of du'as from the Prophet, from the Imams, alayhi salam. I'm not going to tell people that they can do this while I haven't done it first. So he spends 1 year performing all of what he has prescribed in there. Then it's okay to go for print. These things, brothers and sisters, who knows about these things? Allah knows about these things. And so Allah gives a barakah where He won't give anywhere else. Who cares where the money is? Who cares where the spotlight and the fame and glory is? Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If Allah is in a barren desert by the name of Karbala, His satisfaction is there, then the barakah is going to be there. If it's going to be where Hajar is going back and forth, that's where it's going to get the barakah, it's going to come. Until today we see the barakah. All right. So we want to talk about this. What are those, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on how you categorize them. What are those things? Number one, Allah's will itself. the irada of Allah itself. Number one. If Allah has willed something, if Allah has willed Karbala and Ashura to take place, then there must be some good reason for it. If Imam Hussain steps up and lives up to the will of Allah, the command of Allah, then you can be sure wonders will happen. And yes, we see the outcome today, till today. And so if Allah wants something, if Allah's will is there, I have to understand, in the short run, long run, it's going to be better for everybody. And so where does that put us with all the commands of Allah towards us? This is wajib, this is haram, this is wajib, this is haram. But of course, this was the biggest one. And so there's a plan here. Allah has willed, if you live up to that, it's going to do wonders. The same way with Hajar alayhi salam. The same way we have anything that Allah has willed and planned, if we carry it out properly, it will do wonders. Look at this, look. You have Hajj. You have Umrah. Everyone's paying millions of dollars a year to go for these things. Like, who cares? But no. Everyone's in love with Hajj. Everyone's in love with Umrah. Ramadan. I mean, when we were kids growing up, we might not like it too much, but like, you look around, everyone's happy when Ramadan comes. Everyone's decorating the home when Ramadan comes. Why? This is something Allah willed. Throughout the year, if I don't want to eat, it's going to be the worst experience ever. But like when you know Allah's satisfaction is there, there's a blessing, there's a barakat there. Yeah? And if you're in an Islamic country, even better. It's even more beautiful, right? But even here, when we're a minority within a minority within a minority, yeah, still we get those vibes. We get those good feelings. Ramadan is about not eating though, not drinking. What are you talking about? Allah's will is there. Other examples. In this month of Ramadan, you have the night of Qadr. Who's going to stay up all night? I don't know about how people do it. Personally, sometimes I look at people like, mashallah, I got to go home. Also, although I go home and I'll do my ibadah there if I can, but like, they're doing it together, mashallah. The night of Qadr. Why? Because Allah's will is there. I can go on and on. Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. Dude, I didn't see you come into the programs in Ramadan, but I see you on Eid. It's all good. No problem. Yeah? No love lost. It's all right. You get hundreds, if not thousands, for namaz Eid. But it's a namaz. You got to wake up early. Yeah? Still, people enjoy it. Why? Allah's will. Plus, Allah says haram to fast on that day, right? The day of Arafah. And so Muharram and Safar are no exception. Allah's will. That is one of the secret ingredients. And so, as a result, من أراد الله به الخير قذف في قلبه حب الحسين وحب زيارته. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He loves somebody, He puts that love in their heart of Hussain. All right. So now, if Allah's will is there, how is He going to pull it off though? Is He going to just tell us, I have willed this? No. He will look at me, and I'm speaking about me right now personally, say, this guy, he likes to be given rewards. Let me give him a few lollipops for this. Spiritual lollipops. All right? So He will take the rewards up of things. That's what He does. So in Ramadan, why is everyone interested in Quran in Ramadan? We do the math. Like, okay, one verse equals the whole Quran. Like, why not? And so it is a double-edged sword, because after Ramadan, some people might feel like, oh, it's not worth it anymore. That's not good. Okay? We should have a talk about that later, inshallah. That's not good, but look, at the end of the day, Allah knows who He's dealing with. He's dealing with us. And so if He's dealing with us, He knows what gets our attention. So if He wills something, this is how He will make it big. He will do it through the rewards. So Quran, Hajj, Umrah, all these things that I mentioned, you will find that there are huge rewards for them. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done the same thing for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Because Imam Hussain did everything for Allah, Allah will do everything for Imam Hussain. So I'll just share with you two hadiths, and so you can tell what's going on. It says that the first hadith says, أن الله عوض الحسين من قتله أربع خصال. Allah traded with Imam Hussain because of his death and the way he was killed. He traded with him 4 things. In other words, He paid him 4 things. Yes, that's not a good word to use, but He rewarded him with 4 things. Now, these 4 things, they might not even have to do with Imam Hussain himself. They might have to do with the maqam and the mahmuda that Allah gave Imam Hussain. That praiseworthy rank, that rank that everyone else looks at and they're like, man, this is so beautiful because it affects all of us. Like Imam Hussain himself is good to go. But the thing is that through Hussain, alayhi salam, a lot is going to happen. It says here, number one, Allah gave him جَعَلَ الشِّفَاء فِي تُرْبَتِهِ. Allah put shifa in his turba, the dust of his grave. And then some people might ask, well, we don't have access to his grave these days. Correct? That's where the scholars say, look, just take dust from Karbala, any part of Karbala. إِجَابَةَ الدُّعَاء تَحْتَ قُبَّتِهِ. Under his dome, the dua is accepted or answered. Al-a'immatu min dhurriyatihi. This one has to do with Imam Hussain. That the Imams are from his progeny. And finally, لا تعد أيام زائريه من أعمارهم. The days that people go for ziyarat of Imam Hussain, those days don't count as their part of their life. Like Allah will make that up to them. Okay, this person, it took him 16 days to go come back for ziyarah. 16 days we'll add, or if not more. But these are things that Allah, these are incentives Allah will use. What? The dua is answered. That the shifa is in his turba. And that the ziyarat is so great. That's one hadith. Trust me, if Allah hadn't sprinkled His little magical dust on anything that has to do with Imam Hussain alayhi salam, it wouldn't have gotten this big. Allah's will is there. Or look at this hadith. It says that the person asked Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Man ata qabr al-Hussain ma lahu min al-ajri wa thawab. This person, he's like, let's get to the point here. Let's cut to the chase. What thawab and ajr and reward does a person have who goes to the grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam? He said, Ya Shu'aib, no one will pray or ask Allah for something next to him except that Allah will give it to them either right away or later. Okay. He says, Zidni, give me more. I want more than that. And so the Imam, he says, look, let me make it easy for you. أَيْسَرُ مَا يُقَالَ. Let me tell you the minimum. You can figure out the rest. The minimum for the Zair of Imam Hussain alayhi salam is that everything's forgiven, so start anew. As if you're born again. Like we have this in Hajj too, correct? But remember I said this last night. With the Hajj, those are stones there that are in the Kaaba. Yes, that have made up this Kaaba. But Allah has blessed that. Think about it. The Haram of Imam Hussain has Imam Hussain there as well. Yeah. Anyway, we're not comparing at all. Imam Hussain gave his life for the Kaaba. But there's a point I'm trying to make here. Alright, so that's number one. Number two, ikhlas. This one is an important one. I will say this much, that to the amount that ikhlas we have, to that amount Allah will give barakah, in my opinion. Unless other things factor in, of course. This is a world of cause and effect we're living in. Sometimes people have done things with ikhlas. It doesn't work out because the dhalimeen get in the way of it. It doesn't spread for whatever reason. But if the path is leveled enough for this car to move, the car will move because it's running on the gas of ikhlas. That's how I want to say it. Which will, really this applies to us today and all the work that we do for Islam today. I don't know if you're doing stuff in your university, if you're doing stuff in the center, if you're doing stuff at home, wherever it is. Ikhlas has to be there. I want to share some points here with you. Number one, Masjid Quba. Everyone's heard of Masjid Quba? If you haven't, you've heard of Masjid Dirar. Because alhamdulillah, nowadays we are very quick to point fingers at each other and say, you're Masjid Dirar. I was traveling somewhere some time ago. It's just something that every community apparently is dealing with. I'll talk about that a little bit later maybe. Masjid Quba, they say, is one of the first, if not the first masjid that was built by the Prophet when he entered Medina. It's on the outskirts of Medina. And they say he stayed there for 14 days until Imam Ali also arrived after that migration. Right? So the Prophet migrates with Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr wants to go into the city. And the Prophet says, no, I have to wait here for Ali to come. So Ali makes his way after those days pass. And so the Prophet in that time, they make a small little masjid, humble masjid, which later is expanded. And it's very interesting. You read the story, it says the Prophet put the stones himself. They're like, this is so beautiful, man. If the Wahhabis just don't destroy the heritage, inshallah, they can't destroy the masjids, but all the other heritage, unfortunately, almost all of it is gone. But you go there, you're like, this is it. Like, this is where the Prophet stood. This is where he placed the stones and the foundation for Masjid Quba. Like, what more could you ask for? SubhanAllah. Anyway, so they're praying there. It's interesting. Let me say this on the side, because I looked into Wikipedia. The English Wikipedia said he stayed there for 14 days for Imam Ali to arrive. You look in the Arabic Wikipedia, it doesn't say anything about Imam Ali. Whoa. I wonder who wrote that one. By the way, I don't use Wikipedia for my lectures, I'm just saying. Exposed. All right. So this Masjid Quba, it just shows, because when you contrast it with Masjid al-Dirar, yes, that Surah Al-Tawbah verses 107 and 108 speak about, you'll find that masjid was built without taqwa, without ikhlas. Did it remain? No, no one even knows where it is, what's going on with it. No, it might have turned into that might be where the toilets of Masjid Quba are right now. But back then, they built it, yes, to cause fitna, to cause division, to cause problems, to look out for the Muslims. But they called it a masjid, and they started trying to bring in people into that masjid. But the Quran very clearly said that وَالَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا مَسْجِدًا ضِرَارًا. As for those who took to a mosque for sabotage and for defiance and to cause division amongst the faithful, and for the purpose of ambush, by who? By those who have fought Allah in the past and His Apostle in the past, they will surely swear we desired nothing but good. They're lying. Don't believe them, the Quran says. Now, which brings me to this point here. I've noticed this a lot of places, and we have to be very careful about this. This idea of pointing fingers. Just the other day, someone messaged me from another state, and they forwarded me a message, and in that message it's saying that, yes, so-and-so is Muawiyah. No. That's not how things work. I don't care how much of a problem some people will have with each other. There are red lines, brothers. There are limits. Does this person believe in Allah? Yes. Believe in the Prophet, the Kaaba, the Qibla, the Quran, Imam Hussain alayhi salam, weeps for Imam Hussain alayhi salam, all these things, yes. Are they after what this verse is talking about? Diraran, irsadan, kufran, tafriqan. If these conditions apply to somebody, then you can say, okay, they're Masjid Dirar. This person is like Muawiyah. But no. Oh man, oh Allah, we seek refuge in you from reaching such a point that I will ever call another masjid, another place of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there has always been, Shaykh, there have always been Masjid al-Dirars out there have always been Masjid Qubas out there. Yeah, but who are you to identify? That's the problem now. We always think it's black and white. We're not ISIS. There's a lot of gray area, brothers and sisters. We all know the general rules of things, but we will have difference of opinion on applying those general universal rules that we have taken from Ahlul Bayt. How dare I point to any Imam Barga and say this is Masjid Dirar? Unless it fulfills these conditions. If they've done this out of sabotage, defiance, kufr, out of division, ambush, I don't think this applies to about more than 0.001% of the people out there. So we have to be careful. Why is it that I am Imam Hussain, every land is Karbala, every day is Ashura, and you are Yazid? As I said, those days are over. Maulanas, speakers, people, center goers, everybody has to be careful. This rhetoric, our maraja are against it. I'm just saying. Those same maraja that we subscribe to, they're against this. I wish I could share more information. They're telling us, what are you doing out there? Why more and more division? Why is it that if I do a certain thing in a certain way, others don't do it in that way? Oh, you're silent, you're with the oppressors. Oh, no, I'm not doing it the way you said it. Now I'm with the oppressors. This is not how it works. There's a lot of gray area, brothers and sisters. There's a lot of gray area. And each person in their identification of matters, and each to their own, really. But in the end, I am not the judge. Allah is the judge. Yes. So we have to be very careful about this, brothers and sisters. If I have ikhlas, what that means, and what that should entail, inshallah, and I speak about myself first and foremost, is that I put my head down. I just know that there's this work that needs to be done. Inshallah, I'm going to do it. I don't care about the rest because I ain't got time to worry about the rest. There's so much work that needs to be done, especially on this side of the world where we are. We are clinging onto a thread when it comes to our iman in our next generation. It's no joke when our When our scholars, they tell us it's almost, if not the case, that it is wajib for you to build Islamic schools out there. Eh, The difference between a 17-year-old right now and a 7-year-old, you'll see it later. Even the 17-year-olds right now are being exposed to certain things that is hard to like kind of figure it out. How are we going to reconcile with Islamic culture? And then, let alone 10 years from now, my 7-year-old, my 5-year-old, are we doing the work we need to be doing? Yet the scholars are saying that should be your priority right now. So we don't got no time to like worry about what others did and what others didn't do. Everyone, inshallah, hand in hand, moving forward towards the light, inshallah. Recite a salawat. It looks like I won't be able to end everything tonight, so I'm going to leave a lot of it for tomorrow night, inshallah. You know what happens when you have ikhlas, brothers and sisters? Ikhlas happen, when ikhlas is there, what happens is what we see in Suratul Insan. 18 verses, they say. Revealed for what? Because of one mukhlis act. Of who? Of Bibi Fatima, of Imam Ali, alayhim as-salam. What did they do? إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. Ikhlas means for Allah. We are feeding you for the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. And that's why, I've said this before years ago, if Suratul Insan had not revealed to us what these individuals did, these Ashabul Kisa, these Ahlul Bayt did, when that yatim, that asir, when that miskeen, they came to the door of the Ahlul Bayt, when they were fasting, and they were fulfilling their nazr with their fast. If the Quran hadn't revealed to us this story, no one would have known about this story of Ahlul Bayt and what they did. Surah Insan comes with 18 verses in it and says, hey people, just letting you know that these individuals, this is what they did. That's what ikhlas is all about. That people won't even understand. They won't even know that you did what you did. That's a sign of ikhlas. Now, it doesn't mean necessarily that anything that becomes famous, there's no ikhlas in it. No. Lots of times, though, you can gauge it a little bit like this. The Imams are teaching us. That's what happens when ikhlas is there. I want to share with you some hadiths here now. Like 5 or 6, I'm going to go through them very quickly. About how important ikhlas is. Why am I stopping on this? Why am I spending time on this? Because everyone's doing Islamic work these days. You have no choice. Living in the West, you got to do Islamic work, even if it means at home with your family. And so if we're doing Islamic work, if the ikhlas is not there, we're going to try hard and hard and hard. It's just an uphill battle. Why? Because the barakat is not there. Ikhlas, brothers and sisters. Ikhlas. I don't care what's going on around me. Who said this? What's that? I got to get my work done, inshallah. Hadith number 1. أَفْضَلُ الْعَمَلْ مَا أُرِيدَ بِهِ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. The best of actions is that which is done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, well that was very clear. بِالْإِخْلَاصِ يَتَفَاضَلْ مَرَاتِبُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. It is through ikhlas and how much ikhlas people have that there are different degrees of mu'mineen. Oh. تَصْفِيَةُ الْعَمَلْ أَشَدُّ مِنَ الْعَمَلِ. To refine and make pure the action is harder than the act. I don't have anyone particular in mind, Arifai. But like, if I'm opening up the door of the center, for example, it's just an example that comes to my mind right now. I'm the one closing the center, for example. I'm the one sitting behind the monitor. I'm the one who's setting up the mic. I'm the one who brings water for Mulana, for example. I'm the one who whatever. All right? I better be very careful. Why? Because this, to the point where if it was me, I wouldn't do that action if I'm not sure that I have refined the intention. If I feel like, okay, there's a chance that, let someone else do it. Because tasfiyatul amal ashaddu min al-amal. Tasfiyatul amal ashaddu. It's harder. And if it's harder, then it shows that it's the more important aspect of things as well. But once you get that right, inshallah, do all the khair that you want, and you can. Why not? العمل الخالص الذي لا تريد أن يحمدك عليه أحد إلا الله عز وجل. This one's nice. The Imam, he says, or the Ma'asum, he says, you know what? You want to know what amal khalis, pure, refined action is? The one that you are not wishing for anyone to praise you for it. Simple. Kindergarten stuff here. But yes, there will be people who are 7 years old. They're still children. Because this person still looks around to make sure. Did someone see this or not? God forbid. God forbid. I know Allah saw. أخلص قلبك. You know, there are ulama, big scholars, they did big things. And Allah kind of messes with them in a good way. You know what He does? Allah knows this person did it with ikhlas. Allah makes it open to everybody. Because Allah knows if I don't make this public to people, people won't learn. Just like, the story I just told, we talked about. Allah will do ifsha of it and make sure everyone finds out about it. Now this person within themselves, they're very upset that this went out and got out. And people know now. Yeah? But what is it? The thing is, it's very interesting. There was a story, Allama Qadi. They had built like a masjid or something. And like everything's going nice. Allama Qadi, teacher of Ayatul Bahjat and them. And all of a sudden they see him go grab like a hammer or something. And he comes and he starts breaking something down. Oh, they had put a thing there, like a little placard or something there that said that this was under his auspices or something. Broke it down. No, that's not what I'm all about. But sometimes Allah will make it open. And now this person is upset that this happened. But Allah is looking at the bigger picture. He knows this person, their ikhlas won't be tainted. But people need to see this. People need to know this. So yeah, it's all in Allah's hands. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to do the amal, I'm going to move on. Time for the next amal. The Quran says, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. O Prophet of Allah, when you're done doing something, what are you supposed to do? If you look at me, I'm probably laying down somewhere resting. But the Quran says, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. Once you're done getting something done, on to the next job. Man, it's like, you hear about the Prophet, and you're like, okay, there's a soft, gentle, lovable character, all that kind of stuff. This guy was a hard worker. If you looked at him and you didn't believe in God, if an atheist looks at him, he's like, man, this guy's one of those successful people that, like these celebrities, like he's always working. The Prophet is always working. I got ikhlas, I'm doing work, I'm going to do as much as I can now, inshallah. And the third and last one for tonight, inshallah, is that the movement, what were we talking about again? We were talking about how is it, what are those little secret elements and ingredients in what Imam Hussain did that it has lasted till today, so I can at least take some inspiration and apply that to my life. This one is not as applicable because we don't have access to our Imam right now, but his movement was one that was led by an Imam. And it just highlights how important an Imam is. Those people who will say, well, what if Imam Ali had become first Khalifa? There might have been issues as well. Well, we see when an Imam leads something, what happens? With Imam Hussein's movement, we see that. And you know why I say this? Because we have other instances and examples where the Imam didn't leave the movement, although there were good intentions even, but they failed. Should I list them? Well, you have Abdullah bin Handala, or the revolt of Harra, a couple years after Ashura. What happened? It was destroyed. Abdullah bin Handala, the son of Handala, Ghasilul Malaika. Abdullah and his sons, his 8 sons, were all killed. They revolted against Yazid. Did you know that? Someone else revolted against Yazid, not just Imam Hussain. But that thing was suppressed, destroyed. No one even talks about it too much anymore. And then they attacked Medina and they looted Medina and all the bad stuff that happened. Mukhtar's movement. Okay, Mukhtar, there is a difference of opinion on him, what kind of person he was, all that, whatever. Let's just say he's the best person in the world. But Mukhtar, he didn't get anywhere. Why? Not that he's a bad person, but look, there's a difference between when an Imam stands and when others do it. Did it get permission? Did he not get permission? There's a lot of history there. The point being here, we have examples of pious individuals. Zayd ibn Ali ibn al-Hussain ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. Zayd, son of Imam Sajjad. His movement didn't get anywhere. Yahya, son of Zayd, didn't get anywhere. Hussain ibn Ali, Shaheed of Fakh, a Sayyid, a Hashemite. He stood up, didn't get anywhere. One after another, you have these individuals who rose. They got killed the same way Imam Hussain got killed. Their bodies were dealt with kind of similar to the way Imam Hussein's body was dealt with after Ashura. For God's sake, one of them, his name was even Hussain ibn Ali. And in addition to what they did to Imam Hussain, they did to him. In addition to that, you know what else they did? From what I remember, they even burned his body to ashes. Who talks about him? Not that these are bad individuals. No. I'm trying to make another point here. The question was what? The question was, why is it that Imam Hussein's is different than the rest? Because Imam Hussein's at the top. And so these are 3 or 4 of those elements. Inshallah, we'll cover the rest tomorrow night, because there are a few more points that we really need to talk about, inshallah. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. On this night of Arbaeen, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity to remember Imam Hussain again, to let the world know that this wound is still fresh. Leave it, brother. It's okay, leave it. This wound is still fresh. We have not forgotten you, O Hussain. I'm going to read to you what happened with Jabir as he came to Karbala on that 40th day. Some have said the caravan also came. There's some interesting details there as well. I want to share with you what Jabir, when he comes to the land of Karbala, it says that the person that was with him, Atiyah, says, خرجت مع جابر الأنصاري. We went towards the qabr and grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And so when we reached there, he says Jabir went and did ghusl at the Euphrates. After he did ghusl, he changes his clothing, he puts on his perfume, and he slowly makes his way towards the grave of Imam Hussain. He's blind. And so with respect, little steps. This is a land right now, I better be careful. I don't want to step on the wings of the malaika. The malaika are still visiting Imam Hussain. And he slowly makes his way, and it says he didn't take a step except that he would also do dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jabir knows what's going on, brothers and sisters. He knows the magnitude of what he's in right now. And so he says, he says, put me next to the grave, touch me to the grave of Imam Hussain. And he says, I did so. Al-misnihi fa-al-mastuhu. I made him touch the grave of Imam Hussain, and he says he fainted on the qabr of Imam Hussain, so I sprinkled some water on him. He woke up, he said, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain 3 times, and he says, Habibun la yujibu habibah. I'm calling you Hussain. A lover is calling a lover, but I'm not getting an answer from you. And so he goes on, he says, but how can you answer? وَأَنَّا لَكَ بِالْجَوَابِ. How can you answer me while your veins have been cut and distance has been placed between your head and your body? This is Jabir in that day of Arbaeen. I want to have a little conversation with Jabir though. Jabir, you came to the Furat. You performed your ghusl when you arrived at Karbala. But did you know this is the same Furat that Ali al-Asghar was deprived water from, and his lips were opening and closing like a fish dying out of the water? Do you know this? That they've said in Farsi, it says, Moj mazan ab Furat, Asghar man tashne labas. Oh Furat, stop those waves from moving. My Asghar is thirsty, as if Hussain speaks to the Furat on that day. This is the same Furat that Abbas went to but never returned from. This is the same Furat that on the day of Ashura, Amr bin Hajjaj calls to the Imam. He says to him, do you see this water? Do you see this Furat? The animals drink from this Furat, but you will not take a sip from it until you drink from the molten lava of the hellfire. Oh Jabir, this is the same Furat that the children slowly, after Abbas is gone, even before Abbas is gone, they start screaming, oh Al-Atash, Al-Atash, the thirst is reaching our livers. Abbas goes for this purpose but never returns. Jabir, don't think everyone had access to this water like you. Jabir, you calmly, peacefully took small steps towards the grave. But let me tell you, a time came that Imam Hussain had been killed. Imam Sajjad is approached by Bibi Zainab. You're my Imam now. Tell us what to do. Behind us there's a hill. We can't flee there. There is fire around the tents now. We cannot go there. What do? There is nothing you can do. Imam Sajjad says, Alaykunna bil firar. These women and children have no way to go and escape except towards the enemy that's approaching them. I just want you to imagine what happens to these women and children, that these monsters have been waiting for that moment and opportunity. Abbas, when he's gone, we know what we're going to do. These children, God knows how they're falling on these sands. These women, how they're being slapped. They didn't get a chance to walk calmly and peacefully away or towards the grave. They have to run for their lives. Imam Hussain wasn't able to get rid of all the thorns the night before. Let those thorns pierce the feet of these women and children. It's for the greater good. Jabir, you were able to easily visit the grave, but you didn't see what Zainab saw on that day. What did she see? She didn't know what she saw. They say as she searched for the body of Abu Abdullah, she comes to a body. She says, "Anta akhi? Are you my brother? Anta ibnu walidati? Are you the son of my mother Fatima?" And once she is sure this is Hussein, they say she calls out, "Ya Muhammadah, sallallahu alayk, salla alayka malaikatus sama." O Prophet of Allah, the angels send their peace and blessings upon you. هذا الحسين مرمل بالدماء, covered in his blood. مقطع الأعضاء, cut up, his limbs are cut up. وبناتك سبايا, your daughters, O Rasulullah, they're all prisoners. That Bibi Sakina, they say, comes to the body of Imam Hussein, and she says, I heard him say, "Shi'ati mahma sharibtum ma'a adhbin fadhkuruni." Oh my Shia, if you ever drink water, just know, just remember that I left this dunya with thirst. أو سمعتم بقتيل أو شهيد فاندبوني. Oh Jabir, you put your face on the grave. I want to tell you that Imam Hussain alayhi salam put his face on the sands of Karbala as well. But how? It says after he fought, he went to the side. لِيَسْتَرِيحَ سَاعَةً. This is where the musibah begins. لِيَسْتَرِيحَ سَاعَةً. 2 words. Just so he can rest a little bit. As he's standing there, this apostate, this kharijite, this enemy of Allah in their eyes, they say we have to stone him. A stone hits the blessed forehead of Abu Abdullah. This is where it begins. He raises, they say, his shirt to wipe the blood off. On this night of Arbaeen, I'm taking your hearts back to Ashura. He raises the shirt to wipe off the blood. The chest is exposed. The 3-pronged arrow kisses the chest of Abu Abdullah. He cannot remove this arrow. 3-pronged arrows are lodged when they pierce. And so Ayatollah Jawadi, he says that Imam Hussain has to bend down and pull this spear, pull this arrow from behind him, and that is when the blood of Abu Abdullah begins to shoot out like a draining pipe. They say he takes this blood, he sends it to the sky. He says, "Oh Allah, you're watching." He takes another handful, he rubs his face with it. I am going to visit Allah in this blood. And this is where Dhul Janah, they say, understands it's over. He slowly lays Imam Hussain in the qatligah. This is where the face of Abu Abdullah on the sands of Karbala. One eye at the tents, one eye, who is this sitting on my chest? لَقَدْ ارْتَقَيْتَ مُرْتَقًا عَظِيمًا. You're on a lofty space you are standing on. Who are you? وَالشِّمْرُ جَالِسٌ عَلَى صَدْرِهِ. I will not say the rest. All I will say is this, brothers and sisters, that Zainab heard cheering and clapping from the enemy. فَرُفِعَ عَلَى الْقَنَاةِ رَأْسُ الْحُسَيْنِ. Atop the spears goes the head of Hussain. گلی گم کرد دم می جویم او را. This is from Lady Zainab. She says, I've lost a flower. I'm looking for a flower. به هر گل می رسم می بویم او را. Every flower that I reach, I smell that flower. Maybe this is my flower. گل من یک نشانی در بدن داشت. This flower of mine had a sign on it. What was that sign? یکی پیراهن کهنه به تن داشت. My flower had a very old and raggedy shirt that he was wearing. Imam Hussain changed his clothes even before he went. In those last moments, he knew what was going to happen. They still took him up, they still stripped him of his clothes. اگر پیدا کنم زیبا گلم را. If I find this beautiful flower of mine, what will you do, Zainab? به آب دیدگان می شویم او را. I will wash and clean this flower of mine with the tears that come from my eyes. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
Brother Kashif and Jerry Rizvi, please come to the front. Ya Hussain. Ya Hussain.
Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain. گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں. گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں. گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں. گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں.
کاٹو نہ میرا خشک گلا, کاٹو نہ خشک گلا, میں حسین ہوں. گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں. گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں.
گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں.
اماں کسی نے پانی کی ایک بوند بھی نہ دی. اماں کسی نے پانی کی ایک بوند بھی نہ دی. میں بار بار کہتا رہا, میں بار بار کہتا رہا, میں حسین ہوں. گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں. گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں. اے شامیوں کفن نہ دیا مجھ کو غم نہیں. اے شامیوں کفن نہ دیا مجھ کو غم نہیں. دے دو میری بہن کو ردا, دے دو میری بہن کو ردا, میں حسین ہوں.
عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں گونجی بوقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں سوکھی ہوئی ہے شمر میرے حلق کی رگیں سوکھی ہوئی ہے شمر میرے حلق کی رگیں آہستہ تو چوری کو چلا آہستہ تو چوری کو چلا میں حسین ہوں گونجی وقت عصر صدا حسین ہوں گونجی وقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں اماں کسی نے پانی کی ایک بوند بھی نہ دی اماں کسی نے پانی کی ایک بوند بھی نہ دی میں بار بار کہتا رہا میں بار بار کہتا رہا میں حسین ہوں گونجی وقت عصر صدا میں حسین ہوں گونجی یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین بنت علی بیردہ ہاتھ بندھے ہر بازاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی بیردہ ہاتھ بندھے ہر بازاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی بیردہ ہاتھ بندھے ہر بازاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی بیردہ ہاتھ بندھے ہر بازاروں میں جس نے سورج نہ کبھی دیکھا تھا جس نے سورج نہ کبھی دیکھا تھا رو رہی ہے وہ گناہگاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی بیردہ ہاتھ بندھے ہر بازاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی بیردہ ہاتھ بندھے ہر بازاروں میں کون جانے کہ ہے یہ کون رسن پہنے ہوئے بیردار ہوتی ہے سجاد کے پیچھے چھپ کے سسکیاں ڈوبی ہیں جس بی بی کی آئے زندگی کی جھنکاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی بیردہ ہاتھ بندھے ہر بازاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی بازاروں میں آئے زہرا تیری قسمت نہ ملا حق تجھ کو ایسی تعظیم تیری کی ہے مسلمانوں نے تیرا حق مانگنے آئی زینب ایک میں نوش کے درباروں میں آ گئی بنت علی بیردہ ہاتھ بندھے بھر بازاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی کہاں زینب اور کہاں شام کے لوگوں کا ہجوم سربرنا اونچی آواز میں خود خطبے پڑھنا ختم مرسل کا حوالہ دے کر چادر مانگنا بدکاروں میں آئی بنت علی پردات بندھے کر بازاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی آگ خیموں کو لگی اور تھے سجاد بے ہوش رو رو عباس کو دیتی تھی صدائیں زینب لوٹ لو چادر سیدانیوں کی شور برپا تھا ستمگاروں میں گئی بنت علی پردہ ہاتھ بندھے گھر بازاروں میں آ گئی بنت علی جس طرح بالی سکینہ رہے بابا کے بغیر سو گئی چین سے تنہائی میں روتے روتے ہچکیاں دب گئی معصومہ کی ہائے زندانوں کی دیواروں میں آ گئی بنت علی میرے داماد بندے گھر بازاروں
السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين السلام على 9 المعصومين من ولد الحسين السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء ومعين الضعفاء والفقراء أيها الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان الأمان الأمان من فتن الزمان عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته